Hello, Drunk Theology fans. Welcome to Long Beach, California at night. Yep, we're doing an evening episode. I thought it was going to be cool around here. We're in the middle of a heat wave in October. Today is, I think, the 14th. I said that the other day, but today is the 14th of October. And it was a bit warm, and tomorrow's going to be even hotter. So I thought I'd do an evening episode, and it's quite muggy out here. So anyway, let's get through the little intros. You know, if you are watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell. You know, that helps me out. Also, it'll let you know when the next episode is up. And if you want to listen on podcasts, you can listen on podcasts on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, a variety of other platforms. And you can also, go to Instagram. So if you will do that and click on the necessary links, the bio link will tell you everywhere to go, which platform you can watch the videos on, and which platforms your podcast are on. That's on the Instagram bio. If you're watching this on Facebook, just go to the comment section. It'll take you to my Linktree, and you can see all the platforms there. And please join a Patreon, because I'm started the series on Revelation. I'm continuing that today. You'll get about 10 minutes of it here today. But if you want to hear the rest of it, it's about a 45-minute lesson. You'll have to go to Patreon and become a patron and help support the ministry of Drunk Theology. At just $5 a month, you get to watch every video that will ever be put out, as long as they're up there. And I plan on leaving them up until whenever. So should I go home to the other side? Anyway, when I shed this mortal coil, as my brother would say. So if you will do that, that will be very helpful, and I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and get into our lesson. So in our lesson today, let me check something here real quick. Okay, yeah, I'll make sure on today's lesson. All right, so in our lesson today, if you remember, we've completed the first chapter of Revelation. We discussed all the details there about the revelation of Jesus himself to the Apostle John. And now Jesus has commanded him there at the end of it to write down these things in a book, the things that he has seen, which is Jesus, the things that are, which is the church, and the things that shall be hereafter, after the churches. So after the era of the churches, there's something else, and that's when you're going to start getting some real scary territory. Although I'm going to be honest with you, chapters 2 and 3 is Jesus dealing with the church, and it can be scary too. So, but as I said before, they're warnings. They're warnings to and really encouragements to us to continue in the faith. So let's go on here at chapter 2, and we're going to cover 2 of the churches in this segment. I've decided to do that today as I was finalizing everything. I thought, I'm going to break this down to two episodes for chapter 2, and probably 2 episodes for chapter 3, because they can get a little lengthy, and I can get lengthy if I don't watch it. So anyway, chapter 2, verse 1 says, "To the angel of the church in Ephesus write, the words of him who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, and who walks among the 7 golden lampstands. I know your works, your toil, and your patient endurance, and how you cannot bear those who are evil, but have tested those who call themselves apostles and are not, and found them to be false. I know you are enduring patiently and bearing up for my name's sake, and you have not grown weary." What's interesting is that the word that Jesus is giving to each of the angels of the churches, and the angels, of course, are those leaders who are responsible for teaching and preaching and evangelizing, and not only the leaders, but anyone in the body, in the messianic body, who is responsible for that. And so he opens up each of these church messages to the church. Each of them are opened up with a word of encouragement. a word of encouragement that is given to them. And in this word of encouragement, he recognizes what it is that they have done. He recognizes where they have been, and so he deals with them on that basis. And each of these messianic communities, he gives a specific description of himself repeated over to them, to specifically go into their situation. Each congregation receives praise or virtue, except Laodicea. Laodicea will not receive encouragement or a praise of their virtue. And he warns them all about their faults, with the exception of the Church of Smyrna and the Church of Philadelphia. He does not give them a warning, and there's a reason for that, and we'll see that. It's not that they were perfect in any stretch of the imagination. But then, after that, he gives a promise especially to those who are winning the victory. He gives them a promise. And so we find that this is a very interesting pattern. In fact, one time when I was as a pastor, and leading different ministries, this one particular businessman who was a part of a group that I was in charge of, he said to me, he goes, so where did you go to school to learn about how to utilize human resources? Because he was speaking from an academic point of view. He was a businessman, had a degree and all this stuff. And I said, I really don't know what you mean. He goes, you follow a pattern. He goes, and that pattern is that when you're needing to get volunteers and things, he says, you'll talk to them, you'll encourage them, you'll praise them, you'll thank them, and then you kind of challenge them. Or if they're needing correction, I've noticed, that's when you correct them, and then then you begin to encourage them and promise them, good things are in store. That's the way that you marshal forces in the business world. That's the way you get people to do what they're supposed to be doing, is to follow that principle of praise, of correction, direction, and then promise, the carrot, as it were. And if you do this is what you're going to get. He goes, and it's funny, I never thought about it. I just did it. I'm not saying that I was super spiritual or anything. I just did it. But it was after that I noticed that we have that same pattern here in Revelation that Jesus did. Being he was Jewish, so he probably was a good businessman while he was running his father's business after his father had passed away, until he started his ministry. Who knows? But it's interesting. The conclusion of each of these letters is the same kind of ending or warning or encouragement, however you want to look at it, that Jesus used back in Matthew 11. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear what the Spirit says. And so we need to understand, as we approach these things, we need to have ears to hear as to what the Spirit of God is saying. So here to Ephesus, he praises them for their virtue. Says he knows their works and their toil, their patient endurance, and how they didn't put up with any bull.